What I want to know from you, Reeta, is how is it playing in Baltimore now that Lamar has gone on a tweet storm and said, oh, you know what? I asked for a trade on March 2nd because the Ravens don't really value me the way a brother needs to be valued. How's that playing in Baltimore?
I mean, obviously, it's not playing well, right? Nobody wants to go to what it's like without a quarterback, particularly in this division, particularly in the conference of the AFC. So obviously, Lamar is loved by a lot of people in this town. And so nobody wants to hear that their favorite person on their favorite team doesn't want to be there anymore because they don't feel like that they're valued. And so it's played out the way that you would suggest. I mean, that you would think. It's just hasn't bode well, understandably so. And, you really hope that, okay, he said what he said, but then we also heard that they were still having negotiations as early as last week. You hope that they can come to terms with something. But I really feel like this is a situation where Lamar saw that nobody put in an offer sheet. So if he put that out there, it allows him to teams to at least bite. And it does feel like since he said that, we've been hearing Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay of the Colts kind of playing around with the idea of it. So maybe this is his way of trying to get the needle moved a little bit to see if someone can bolster up an offer, or if it's really just him wanting a trade out of Baltimore. But it really just feels like this is a money situation, which to me is salvageable if you pay someone what they believe that they're worth, or at least close proximity to it.
See, Reeta, I may be a little jaded from all my years covering this league, but when I heard Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay, what I heard was the league's voice in their head saying, we need at least one team to say they have interest in Lamar so we can fight off any collusion claims. That's what I heard. So if Indy is serious about it, then talk to Lamar and find out what Lamar wants. Short of that, to me, didn't mean anything.
I agree with that. I do think, because I felt that way, Jim, when the Raiders came out. Like as soon as, the availability for the non-exclusive tag, they mentioned it. And the Raiders was one of the teams that was like, oh, well, we're not going to take away the option of Lamar Jackson, which a lot of us knew that the Raiders probably weren't in it from a financial perspective. So to me, that was BS as well. So when we heard Irsay and them speak, I agree with you. I said the same thing. It's just ironic that that was the team who does have the number 4 overall pick, who does have cap space, said what they said, because even in that situation, it does feel like it's a potential go in that regard, like a good fit in terms of draft capital for the Ravens, in terms of the money that they have. But then you hear Jim Irsay go and say, money is not the issue. I just don't like fully guaranteed contracts. So that's how you know that they're just like, yeah, I'm just BSing here a little bit. I'm just putting my hand out there and saying that that's what I'm going to do. But I ain't going to really do it. But I feel like I should just play around and play along with what's going on right now.
Okay.
See, can I say this real quick, Mark?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Until I hear Lamar Jackson say, my contract must be fully guaranteed.
Right.
Yes.
I don't buy any of this, right?
That's what I was going to say. Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jim. One, for Jim Irsay, okay, you don't like fully guaranteed contracts. When's the last time you talked to Lamar? Like, you talked to Lamar? So where's this information coming from? That's why it is collusion. Where are they getting their information from? We know where they're getting their information from. They're getting it from Baltimore. So for a guy who doesn't have an agent, and you haven't talked to him, and yet you're saying this with confidence, okay, give me your source. Hey, as a journalist, I'm not supposed to, unless I'm your editor, I'm not supposed to ask you for your sources. I'm going to ask you for your sources, though, Jim Irsay.
Right.
Where are your sources? Because we know. And that's why we're having this situation right now. But that aside, it's funny that these billionaires don't want to guarantee contracts for anybody. Why not? And why aren't fans pushing for that? But that aside, Reeta, on that list, can we bring up that list again, Gary, of the 11 possible destinations or logical destinations for Lamar Jackson. I'm wondering from a Baltimore perspective, because I just want to know, just from what you've observed and heard, what folks think. Of these 11 teams on the list, which one would drive Ravens fans the craziest if Lamar Jackson wound up there?
So you have to go with the Colts, right? Because there's history there. There's obvious history there. There's very rich history there. And Jim Irsay is in the middle, or his father. His father was in the middle of this history. And while there's a lot of people that are too young to remember, I ain't gonna tell my age, but I was alive when it happened, when they rolled out in the middle of the night. I was alive. I was still very young. But you have generations of people like my dad who will constantly remind you of what happened in that situation. So that's one. Two is the Commanders, because Baltimore and DC do not get along. I know that they're 45 minutes apart. Baltimore is not the DMV. I want to be clear here. And so we do not rock with the people down the street. They don't rock with the people up the street. So the Commanders would be annoying. Of course, you got to say the Patriots, because the Ravens and the Patriots for years had a rivalry thing going on, even though they weren't in the same division, but they played, playoff games together. They played a lot of high profile games over the years. So that's definitely one. I think the others, you just kind of like, But those three, in that order, by the way, I put it in the order which I believe that the fans would hate it the most, are the ones that Ravens fans would definitely be like, okay, this hurts. This
stings. And you know what? I love that, Reeta. We don't mess with people down the street. They don't mess with us. Okay, fine. You stay over there.
That's right.
We'll stay over here. All right, leave us alone. We ain't even trying to holler at you across the chain link fence. But let me ask you this. This is funny. Today, I'm told, is the 39-year anniversary of Robert Irsay.
Yep.
Sneaking out of town.
Yep.
Sneaking out of town with the Baltimore Colts and turning them into the Indianapolis Colts. A dark day in the state of Maryland.
Yes. My dad will never, my father, and rest his soul, my grandfather, would never let you live it down, okay? My dad still has tons of Colts memorabilia. Now, mind you, he's a big Ravens fan. He has definitely, adapted to what they are now. But my father was one of the heartbreakers that the Colts dealt with in terms of fans that left. He still has his Johnny Unitas photo hanged up. He has a photo of Lenny Moore. He loves his Colts. And so I'm sure he knows about this day. I'm not going to bother him about it. I'm not going to bring it up. But I'm sure he knows it. At his big age, and I'm sure he's over there reminiscing, looking at old videos and old photos. And also, my grandfather went to the game, the greatest game I've ever played, that championship game against the Giants. So there's a lot of history. My family, like, being huge Colts fans. So yeah, that was a devastating day in my household.
Oh, I love that, man. Just hearing about your family and the history. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather absolutely went. It's some great memories, took some pictures, so it was dope. So yeah, I'm glad that they finally had an opportunity to root for somebody else, because they weren't going to root for the team down the street, like I told y'all. And they weren't going to root for the team over west, which is the Steelers. So, and they tried to make you be Dolphins fans back in the day. They used to play Dolphins games a lot on CBS. So they never wavered. They waited till 96, got their team, and then, the rest is history.
You know what, Jim and Reeta, and tell me if I'm just exaggerating on this so much. When you were a kid, and how to get you, it depends on who you heard this from. They wouldn't yell at you. They'd say, "You know what? I'm just disappointed." And I'm just disappointed, because I thought you'd give me more than that. So I guess I'm there with the Ravens. How the Ravens get to this situation where Lamar Jackson, the most important player in the franchise, is asking for a trade, and they're just kind of in this silly situation with Lamar. I just feel like it's so avoidable. I'm disappointed in the Ravens. I expect this from the Commanders, Texans, Browns. Certain franchises, it's just stupid stuff over and over, just over and over. I'm like, of course it's y'all.
I don't know why you give them so much credit, because I've mentioned this before on this show that, what Joe Flacco also went through his 5th-year option. And obviously he won a Super Bowl on that, but they tried to, give him a deal that he didn't like in his 5th year, and he decided to play it out. And we know as a result that he got his contract after he won the Super Bowl. So this is their MO. I don't, I think that they have a standard that they go by, and that's fine. But what I'd say to that is that the league is constantly evolving. And if Lamar is telling you that he's not asking for a fully guaranteed deal, is it simply that you guys both have lines that you just refuse to cross, and that this is just an ego staring fest on both sides? Is it that the Ravens just feel like that they're too arrogant because they have the exclusive rights for him at the moment in terms of like having the tag on him, and no one has put out an offer sheet? I don't know what's happening, but I just feel like you might be giving them a little bit too much credit, because I've seen them do this before. This is not new as far as I'm concerned. It's just gone longer than what we've expected. But they've done this to Joe Flacco, who at that point had been the 2 previous AFC Championship game. His 3rd year in the AFC Championship, obviously we know he went to a Super Bowl, and then they paid him. So that's just how they are.
I love the history lesson. Love the history lesson. Because I'm with you, Michael. I'm that guy that thought the Ravens are one of those organizations that I held up and said, basically they conduct their business, above board, so to speak. But to Reeta's point, what I would like to know, if they both have these lines that we're talking about, I want to know what those lines are.
Yes.
Right? Because we're sitting out here, we're all speculating and whatnot, and we're drawing conclusions. And the emotional part of me says, look, I'm all with Lamar. You know that. I've said that he's my favorite player in the NFL. But the journalist part of me says, before I can make any sort of conclusion, come to any conclusion, I need to know what the facts are. So what are these lines that separate these two clubs? And until we hear that, from a journalistic standpoint, it's hard to really draw any conclusion.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you're right, Jim. But I was just thinking about this, developing thought, because I've been so focused on the collusion aspect of it that I haven't really thought about maybe some other factors with Lamar Jackson. Maybe it's the same thing that got Lamar Jackson drafted 32nd overall, even though he had a brilliant college career. It's a black quarterback. People don't get it. It's hard to understand his skill set. And so I'm not talking about the Ravens. I'm talking about the rest of the league. Because if I say to you, if Josh Allen says, hey, you know what? I'm out of Buffalo. I want out. I want a fully guaranteed contract. He's never won a Super Bowl either. He's got a good playoff record, but never won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen would have a deal. I think most quarterbacks with the profile of Lamar Jackson would have a deal. There's collusion, there are collusive elements, but there's something else here too that makes me a little uncomfortable.
But to your point, Michael, and I have asked this question of GMs around the league that I know and I trust. Take Lamar's situation, right? Everything is exactly the same. It is what it is. But simply remove Lamar from the equation and put Joey Burrow in the equation. Would Joe Burrow get what he's asking for if it is indeed a fully guaranteed contract? And what GMs have said to me is probably. So I can't remove this element of Lamar being treated differently because he is Lamar and because of some of the things you said. Because I do believe if Joey Burrow were the one in the exact same situation, exact same background, he would get that fully guaranteed contract.
I do think that Lamar is a player that people can't put in a box. And because of that, it's very difficult to evaluate him in terms of value. And it's not difficult to us, right? Because all we see is the talent. portion of it. Forget all of the other things about, him being a black quarterback, him, having a Southern accent and all these other things. We see him in terms of how he plays football. But I think that other people add those things in addition to him being a player, because when you see reports that were coming out yesterday and they were talking about his sleep and his eating habits, but nobody, talked about his character. Then why are we having this conversation? Because we can talk about a lot of quarterbacks who are out here doing certain things and not doing. Patrick Mahomes just told us,
and we celebrate them. We celebrate them. We do. He told us that he didn't even watch film and that he just started seeing defenses differently because he's seeing film differently now. He was literally using his ability, his God's gift ability to play football, and then decided he wanted to take it another step and read defenses better. And yet we thought that was a cool story. But somehow, because Lamar has one playoff win, I guess, we keep saying, he eats weird and he sleeps weird. And we're coming up with all of these excuses. And it's just very weird to me how we've gotten to this point. Do you like the way he plays quarterback? Does he win football games for your franchise? Yes or no? Because really, to me, that's the bottom line. He's a good kid. He doesn't get in trouble. Okay, so he has some bad habits. Those things can be fixed. Those are fixable things, right? It doesn't affect his play to a degree. It doesn't affect his character either. I just don't understand why this is such a big deal. So I agree with that. I just really feel like this is just an unfortunate situation that not only the Ravens, because no one else has stuck their neck out and said, I'm going to go ahead and take a chance, are all seeing this the same way. It's really unfortunate.
Well, Reeta, great stuff as usual. This is what it comes down to for NFL owners. They want a lot of money.
Yep.
And they want a lot of control. They want a lot of money. They want a lot of control. So when Lamar Jackson asks for a lot of money, they're going to keep their money and they're going to keep their control, because if he breaks the code, we got a new day with guaranteed contracts. So they're shutting them out.
This is why Joey Burrow and Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts all need to say no fully guaranteed contract, no extension.
Absolutely. He got to get guys
and you will
get
change
guys
the
in his army.
landscape.
Got to build his army. As soon as he does that, he rolling.
Sometimes, Jim Trotter, it takes one person to step out to make it easier for everybody else. Oh, I'm preaching today. I'm preaching today. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.